We are expecting, actually, in the next hour to see Air Force One. It's landing at RAF Mildenhall here in the UK on a refuelling stop. We'll bring you some pictures of that, perhaps, if we see them. And on board, I'm sure they'll be toasting a job well done. The White House says more than $2 trillion worth of deals have been agreed by Donald Trump during this trip to the Gulf states. That includes $600 billion of investment from Saudi Arabia. $142 billion of that is on arms and defence spending. In Qatar, another $1.2 trillion of investment, part of which will go to Boeing. And then in the UAE, $200 billion of deals, including money for the largest AI data centre outside the US. Worth picking up on that point in a second. Let's discuss it all with the Republican strategist and former federal prosecutor, Joe Moreno. Good to see you, Joe. Who's the big winner this week?
Christian, it appears as it's Donald Trump, and then by extension, America. If these deals are as good as they sound and as good as they seem to promise to be, this will create jobs. It will create high-tech manufacturing investments, and hopefully it will improve relationships with Middle East countries, which, let's face it, have not been ideal for decades between the United States and countries like Qatar, Saudi, UAE, which are tepid. They are professional, but they're not warm. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction.
Let's talk about the foreign policy issues, could we? It's highly significant that he didn't go to Israel. They've been negotiating directly with Hamas for the first time without consulting the Israelis. Marco Rubio said last night he had concerns about the food blockade. Donald Trump's touched on that today. Where do you think the White House is right now in its relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu?
Seems like it's taken a half a step back as a result of this deal. Donald Trump has been very publicly supportive of Israel, very publicly supportive of getting as many hostages released from the West Bank as possible. And yet, remember, he's a transactional guy. And I think he follows the money. I think he sees the financial gain in these deals in the Middle East. And I think it kind of takes his eye off the ball a little bit on Israel. So let's hope that as an ancillary advantage to these deals, there's some progress being made there. But I have to think Israel's kind of sitting off to the sideline, much like Ukraine, and saying, this is not where we're getting America's attention right now.
On Ukraine, I mean, obviously he'd made moves to go to Turkey if Vladimir Putin was prepared to meet him there. Where do you think Congress is on this? Because Lindsey Graham wants tougher sanctions. The Europeans certainly do. Do you think we're heading into good cop, bad cop territory where Trump can tell the Russians, look, I can't hold off Congress and the allies much longer?
Yeah, at this point, I put my money on the bad cop. There's not a lot of things that Republicans and Democrats agree on these days in this town, but one thing they do is increase sanctions on Russia. Right now, supposedly, Senator Graham has over 60 votes ready in the Senate, possibly even over 67, which is enough to override a presidential veto. And I expect the same in the House of Representatives. And so I think you have a very, very strong coalition of conservatives and progressives here in Congress that are saying, we're kind of tired of waiting here, and we're prepared to put something like 500% tariff rates on Russia on some key areas, including hydrocarbons, as well as those countries that buy oil and gas from Russia. So these could be crippling sanctions. And they're consistent with Donald Trump's style, too. Remember, he is not a military interventionist. He is not the type of neoconservative Republican that we've gotten used to in the last 30 years. He's an economics guy, and he's going to say, I'd rather deploy America's economic powers than our military ones.
Just a thought on the deals that he's done, which dovetail neatly with the Trump family business ties in that region. There's been a lot of concern that maybe China will get access to the sensitive chip technology that maybe America is supplying to the Middle East. It might get access to it through the back door. The UAE has very close ties with China. Will that be a concern, do you think, to Congress?
Yes, that probably is the big weakness here, that by reducing limitations on the export of AI chips and other sensitive technology, despite what the recipients promised, they could still find their way through a backdoor to China, which was the whole purpose of blocking these exports to begin with. And so, yes, I think it's fantastic, the economic back and forth, and I understand the Middle East nations' desire to move past oil and gas sales into high technology fields. That's smart on their part. But if this technology does get into the hands of China, it really degrades years of trying to stop that. And so I think if there is a downside here, that's potentially it.
Joe, always good to get your thoughts. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Thanks, Christian.
Joe Moreno there. We'll